You are lying in bed. It is quiet. The house is dark. And then, without warning, your mind goes there. The worst possible version of tomorrow. The conversation that ends everything. The phone call that changes your life. The mistake that unravels years of work. You did not choose to think about this. It arrived on its own. And no matter how hard you push it away, it comes back louder. This is not a flaw. This is not weakness. This is one of the oldest and most powerful programs your brain has ever run. The human mind is not built to make you happy. It is built to keep you alive. And for most of human history, those were very different jobs. Think about your brain as a piece of survival software written over 2.5 million years of trial, error, and catastrophe. Every version of your ancestor who failed to imagine the worst-case scenario was removed from the code. The ones who survived were the ones who could not stop thinking about what might go wrong next. You are their direct output. Your brain did not forget how they survived. It runs their program every single day. Psychologists call this negativity bias. But that name makes it sound like a malfunction. It is not. It is one of the most successful features in the history of biology. Here is what the research actually shows. In 1998, psychologist Paul Rozin and his colleague Edward Royzman published a paper that would reshape how scientists understood human cognition. Their finding was stark. Bad events, bad emotions, bad feedback, and bad information all have a stronger and longer-lasting effect on the human brain than equivalent good events. A single loss hits harder than an equal gain feels good. One insult lasts longer than one compliment. A single threatening shadow in the dark outweighs 100 safe, quiet evenings. Rozin and Royzman called this asymmetry negativity dominance, and it is not a modern problem. It is a biological inheritance. Your brain runs a constant threat detection loop. It is always scanning, always sampling the environment for signals that something might go wrong. And when it finds one, even a faint one, even an imaginary one, it does not wait for confirmation. It acts immediately. It floods your body with cortisol. It narrows your attention. It begins running simulations. What if this goes wrong? What if that falls apart? What is the worst version of what happens next? The technical term for this is anticipatory anxiety. But your ancestors did not have a technical term for it. They just had the feeling. And it saved their lives over and over until it was passed to you. Here is where it gets strange. Your brain cannot always tell the difference between an imagined threat and a real one. Neuroscientist Joseph LeDoux spent decades mapping the human fear circuitry and found that the amygdala, the almond-shaped structure sitting deep inside your brain, responds to the thought of a danger almost as powerfully as it responds to the danger itself. Picture a car veering into your lane. Your palms sweat, your heart rate jumps, your muscles tense. Nothing happened. The car existed only in your mind, but your body prepared as if it were real. This is the mechanism behind catastrophic thinking. Your brain is not being irrational. It is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It is running a threat simulation. It is asking, if the worst happens, will you be ready? For 2.5 million years, this simulation was worth running. If you were a hunter on an open plain, imagining the worst possible outcome of your next hunt could mean the difference between returning home and becoming something else's meal. If you were gathering food near a watering hole, catastrophic thinking was not paranoia. It was reconnaissance. But here is the problem. Your brain is running that same ancient software in a world it was never designed for. The threats have changed beyond all recognition. The predators are gone. The famine, for most people reading this, is not coming. And yet the simulation runs anyway. Because the software does not know that. The software only knows what it was built to do. So it takes your modern life, with its emails and deadlines and conversations and relationships, and it runs those through the same survival filter it once used for lions and starvation and rival tribes. And the output looks like lying awake at 2 a.m., unable to stop imagining every way tomorrow might go wrong. Psychologist Beck, one of the founders of cognitive behavioral therapy, identified a specific pattern he called catastrophizing. It is the mental habit of assuming the worst possible outcome is not just possible, but inevitable. Beck found that this pattern was almost universal. Every patient he studied, regardless of their diagnosis or background, engaged in catastrophizing at some level. The difference between people who suffered and people who coped was not whether the thought arrived, it was what happened after it arrived. Beck discovered something that would change psychiatry. The thought itself was not the problem. The problem was what the brain did next. Did it test the thought? Did it ask whether the worst was actually likely? Or did it accept the worst-case simulation as the only version of reality available? Most brains, left to their default setting, accept the simulation. They treat the imagined catastrophe as a confirmed report, and then they prepare for it, which means your body spends enormous energy bracing for something that will, in the majority of cases, never happen. Here is a number that should stop you cold. In a study published in the journal Behavior Research and Therapy, researchers asked participants to write down their worries over a 2-week period, then track whether each worry actually came true. 85% of the things they worried about never happened. And for the 15% that did go wrong, the participants reported they handled the outcome better than they had predicted. Their catastrophic simulations had been wrong on 2 counts. The bad thing was less likely than they feared, and they were more capable of surviving it than they believed. Your brain is a terrible forecaster of disasters it has never faced before. It overestimates the probability of the worst outcome. It underestimates your ability to endure it. And it never updates this forecast because the whole point of the threat simulation is to prepare you to avoid the thing, not to actually experience it and learn from it. This is the loop. You imagine the worst. Your body responds as if the worst is already happening. You feel afraid. Your brain interprets that fear as evidence that the worst really is coming. And so it imagines it again in more detail, with more conviction. But here is what your brain did not tell you. The very fact that you are running this simulation is a sign of intelligence. Not weakness, not disorder, intelligence. Animals that cannot simulate futures cannot avoid them. The capacity to imagine the worst is the same capacity that lets you plan, invent, build, and solve. It is not your enemy. It is a tool that has been left running in the wrong context. Researcher Martin Seligman, who founded the field of positive psychology, argued that the human brain has a baseline setting he called the explanatory style. It is the story your brain tells about why bad things happen. Pessimistic explanatory style, which is what catastrophic thinkers run, treats bad events as permanent, pervasive, and personal. Something goes wrong, and the brain says this will always be like this. Everything is affected by this, and this happened because of something fundamental about me. Optimistic explanatory style treats bad events as temporary, specific, and external. Something goes wrong, and the brain says this will pass, this is limited, and this happened because of specific circumstances that can change. Seligman found that neither style is more accurate than the other. The world is neither as permanently broken as the pessimist fears, nor as reliably forgiving as the optimist hopes. But the style you run has enormous consequences for your health, your relationships, your performance, and how long your fear simulations last. The catastrophic thinker is not seeing more clearly. They are running a very old program in a very new world. And now think about tonight. Think about the moment when the house goes quiet and your mind goes to the worst version of tomorrow. That thought is not a prediction. It is not a warning from the future. It is a signal from the past. It is 2.5 million years of ancestors saying, I survived because I prepared. I prepared because I imagined the worst. And now here you are, descended from every single one of them, your brain still running their code. You cannot delete the software, but you can know what it is. You can recognize the simulation for what it is, a survival tool borrowed from a world that no longer exists, firing in a context it was never designed for. You can ask the question your ancestors never could. Is the worst outcome actually the most likely one? And more importantly, if it did happen, would you survive it? Tonight, when the house goes quiet and your mind goes there, you will know exactly what is happening. Ancient software, running in a modern machine, doing exactly what it was built to do. The question was never whether the worst could happen. The question is whether you will let a 2 million-year-old survival program convince you it already has.